you have a solid youth program and you get, young men and women together, and they learn together and they grow together and they inspire one another. I think that's wonderful. It's just not why the Boy Scouts were created. It's not why the Girl Scouts were created. And the Girl Scouts are pointing out that the unintended consequence of the Boy Scouts becoming inclusive of girls is that it will hurt the Girl Scouts. The Boy Scouts of America is officially changing their name to Scouting America. We'll look at a report from AP News. It says Boy Scouts of America changing name to more inclusive Scouting America after years of woes. The Boy Scouts of America announced after 114 years that it will change its name and will become Scouting America in an effort to emphasize inclusion as it works to move past the turmoil of bankruptcy and a flood of sexual abuse claims. The rebrand is another seismic shift for an organization steeped in tradition that did not allow gay youths or girls to begin joining its ranks until relatively recently. Seeking to boost flagging membership numbers, the Irving, Texas-based organization announced the name change Tuesday at its annual meeting in Florida. In the next 100 years, we want any youth in America to feel very, very welcome to come into our programs. The change will officially take place on February 8th, 2025, timed to the organization's 115th birthday. The organization began allowing gay youth in 2013 and ended a blanket on gay adult leaders in 2015. In 2017, it made the historic announcement that girls would be accepted as Cub Scouts as of 2018 and into the flagship Boy Scout program in 2019. Now, we'll look at some of these numbers because the Boy Scouts are really in trouble. In 2018, they had 2 million scouts signed up. Now, remember, 2018 is the year that they began to allow girls to come in, starting as Cub Scouts all the way through Eagle Scouts. Now, in 2024, they're down to 1 million. And so since that change and since the introduction of girls into the Boy Scouts, they have dropped in half from 2 million scouts down to 1 million. Now, a lot of things happened during that time, a global pandemic. And so we can't just take a univariable approach and say because girls are in now, it dropped in half. However, we can look at a broader trend all the way back in 1972. This was the peak of Boy Scouts. There were 5 million Boy Scouts, 5 million boys in Boy Scouts. In 1972, the population of America was roughly 200 million people, and there were 5 million Boy Scouts. In 2024, there's 350 plus million population in America, and there's only 1 million Scout, and that number continues to drop. So they have now completely changed where it's not even called Boy Scouts. It was Boy Scouts, but like asterisk, girls can come, right? So
wow,
kind of misleading in some ways. And so they're like, well, we'll line it up. And now it's just called Scouting America. And their numbers continue to plummet. Proverbs 4:25-26 says, let your eyes look directly forward and your gaze be straight before you. Ponder the path of your feet and all your ways will be sure. The Boy Scouts started to help young men specifically have a space outside of all other influences, including the very powerful influence of girls your age. When you get boys around girls their age, they lose their minds. It's just what happens. And I mean, that doesn't change, I guess, until maybe you die.
Wow.
So to consolidate young men into an arena where they are segmented off and are able to learn values and how to be a good citizen, how to be trustworthy, how to have useful skills in the world. This was the claim of Boy Scouts, is that you would become a better person, a stronger man, and a better citizen. And that has now changed. They took their eyes off of the intended target for this, and they've had all kinds of trouble. And, they started taking their eyes off when they started having all kinds of allegations of abuse and sexual abuse and all of these horrible, horrific things and cover-ups, and didn't try to deal with it correctly. And now, by taking the very purpose of this and doing away with it. Now, the question is that fair to girls? Well, it certainly is, because there's also something called the Girl Scouts, where girls can get away from the undue pressure and social scenarios that are created by boys being around them and learn their own skills and grow in their own character. Here's what's interesting. Everyone is reporting on this as if this is something brand new. Like this just happened in 2024. They just changed their name. No big deal. That's not actually the case. We're going to look at an article from CNN. It says Girl Scouts sue the Boy Scouts over name change. This didn't happen yesterday. If you look, it happened November 7th, 2018. So this is not something new. This is something that's been going on for a while. Now, why would the Girl Scouts sue the Boy Scouts over changing their name? Let's look at the article. A long-running dispute between Scouts has now ended up in a Manhattan court. The Girl Scouts of the USA has filed a trademark infringement lawsuit against the Boy Scouts of America after it announced that it would drop boy from the name of a program in 2019. The boys group has already begun to welcome older girls. The Girl Scouts said in the complaint filed in the Manhattan federal court Tuesday that the Boy Scouts do not have the right to use Scouts or Scouting. It also alleged that the Girl Scouts brand and activities will be marginalized by the Boy Scouts rebranded program, Scouts, BSA. The Girl Scouts said the change has caused confusion among the public, causing them to think the Girl Scouts did not exist or had merged with the Boy Scouts. Only Girl Scouts USA has the right to use the Girl Scouts and Scouts trademark with leadership development services for girls. We applaud every organization that builds character and leadership in children, including the Girl Scouts of the USA, and believe there's an opportunity for both organizations to serve girls and boys in our communities, it said in a statement. The lawsuit seeks monetary damages and a permanent injunction against trademark infringement. So what are they saying? The Girl Scouts are saying you're creating confusion. And I have no doubt, as a matter of fact, one of the first things that I Googled after I heard the Boy Scouts were changing their name is whether or not the Girl Scouts were changing their name. Are the Girl Scouts going to now allow boys in? And their answer is hard pass.
Wow.
We don't want any stinky boys in our program.
Boom. Roasted.
So a lot of times you try something with good intentions. And I do love the idea of there being a program that is inclusive of boys and girls, and that is character building. And I think there is space for that. Now, for me, I'm the pastor of a local church. I think that happens in your local church. And, you know, you have a solid youth program and you get, you know, young men and women together and they learn together and they grow together and they inspire one another. I think that's wonderful. It's just not why the Boy Scouts were created. It's not why the Girl Scouts were created. And the Girl Scouts are pointing out that the unintended consequence of the Boy Scouts becoming inclusive of girls is that it will hurt the Girl Scouts, is that it will create confusion with the Girl Scouts. And the very people they're now seeking to serve, Scouting USA, which is like, we also want to help girls, is potentially going to hurt the organization that has existed for a very long time, specifically to help girls do the very things as a scout that you're now trying to do inclusively. There's all kinds of unintended consequences. Scripture acknowledges this. Proverbs 16:25 says there's a way that appears to be right, but in the end, it leads to death. It appears to be right, but in the end, it causes destruction. It wreaks havoc. In the 1930s, Australia was having a huge problem with a beetle called the cane beetle. It was significantly damaging their crops. And so in order to deal with the cane beetle, they brought in a certain kind of toad. They named them cane toads because their hope is they would eat all the cane beetles and then their agriculture would start to thrive again. Instead, the cane toad was very poisonous to species that already lived in Australia. And the cane toads multiplied like crazy. And so pretty soon the cane toads had taken over and were doing huge damage to the species that already lived there. It became an invasive species. And even to this day, it has damaged the population, the native population of animals in Australia. You try to solve one problem, but when you don't think through unintended consequences of veering off the path where you started, then you can hurt the very thing that you're trying to help. And we should really consider that. When we set out and we have a goal and we have a vision and we have a calling, we must stay the course. And you see this happen in the church as well. We have a very clear call, and the call is to be the movement of Jesus, to go into all the world and to make disciples. And it's so easy to get sidetracked. And we think that we should soften the edges of the commands of God, or that we should not preach the whole truth of Scripture, or we shouldn't talk about sin, or we shouldn't talk about hell. And Anytime we change the mission that we've been put on, there will be unintended consequences. And instead, we should seek to model our lives like Jesus, to speak the truth unapologetically, to love like Jesus, which is the highest call, to love God and to love others, and to leave the results up to him. And if you have a mission as the Boy Scouts to raise up young men and to help them become highly skilled, valuable members of society, then you should stay on mission. And by getting off mission, there will be unintended consequences. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you are subscribed so you can stay up to date with all new content. And if you want early access, exclusive content, and monthly live Q&As, make sure to check out patreon.com/ClaytonTyner.